and Supervision Commission for the City of Norwood. If we could have the roll call, please.
Mayor Williams, Council President Lake here, Mr. Swartz, Mr. Shepard, Mr. Vandahar,
Here.
Ms. Longenecker,
Here.
Ms. Snyder,
Here.
and Mr. Shepard has arrived.
And Mr. Shepherd, we're just taking the roll call, so let you catch your breath. We are being broadcast today, and a request was made that we always be broadcast, so just to alert you that that's going on. Next item on our agenda is the prior meeting's minutes, which were emailed to you in advance. Are there any changes or corrections that anyone had? I want to thank Donna for putting those together for us so faithfully, and that was a long meeting. Thanks
It
for
was a long meeting.
documenting it well.
Hopefully it caught the general consensus of the meeting.
Yeah, if there's no additions or changes, if there could be a motion to approve the minutes.
Move.
Mr. Shepherd, second. Marcy, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Sent out yesterday were the financial statements that we're going to work off of, so I will now turn this over to our financial supervisors, Anna Mary and April, to walk us through.
In front of you, you'll have handout A, which is the city's statement of cash position at the end of October. This is the last month it's been fully reconciled. We're in the first part of December, so it takes a little bit of time to get November. That's why we're working on October information. On here, I want to point out the general fund. It does have a positive unexpended balance and a positive after encumbrance balance. However, we must remember that there's still 5 payrolls that will be paid, 3 in November, 2 in December. There's also a special pay as of December 1st that will be paid out. With all of those paid, that's around $2.2 million that still will be going out as expenditures for the city within the general fund.
Why doesn't that show as a outstanding encumbrance?
You do not encumber payroll.
Okay. So it's gonna be significantly under.
Well, you still have revenues coming in too, so you'll have that part of it. You've received, well, and we'll get into some of those in the next reports that I have, but some of the revenue sources like property taxes, they've already gotten everything they'll get for that, but there's still stuff coming in. So I just wanted to point out that we still have 5 payrolls left for the year to be paid out. The other fund that I wanted to bring up is the water fund at the bottom of page 1 of 2 of that same report. It is a negative $430-some thousand. It has grown throughout the year. We've asked the city auditor's office for a cash flow analysis and a cash fund balance analysis, and that's been performed, and we've looked at that. What we're going to be doing next is talking with the utility department and reviewing the system, prior year and current year, and how things are denoted on how to be posted between the different funds of collections that they receive. So that's an ongoing thing that we're looking at as well as the city. Is there any questions on this report?
I don't remember, sorry, was water always negative? Like,
No.
was it negative? Okay.
It's been being negative this year. It's kind of trended down that way. They have increased the water rates the first part of the year. It's still trending negatively, so that's why we're doing some analysis on
We
those
don't know
funds.
it's changed, I guess?
No, we
That's what
don't
the
know.
analysis-
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And we're looking at prior years too to see if there's something in the prior years that's jumping out for a cause of it as well.
Yeah, I didn't know if maybe do we allocate the revenue that was going there that we moved to a different bucket this year or something, or if it just, okay.
those are the things we're looking at, and maybe not this year, maybe something in the past, or we're looking into
Okay.
it though, with the city's help.
And interestingly, the sewer fund has like a very much positive. Is it
Correct.
possible that like administration fees that we get are all going into the sewer fund
I
and
don't-
not into the water
That's
fund?
until we get more and dive into it more, which we're trying to do now. I don't know for sure. So I could give you a lot of what ifs, and none of them will be right. And so, and instead of giving bad information up front, I'd rather wait until we kind of review that.
Thank you.
Handout B is the revenues from the recovery plan versus actual. Again, this is through October. The target is to have 83.3% or more, because that's 10 months over 12 months, being collected for the recovery plan funds. As you can see in total, all three of these funds are over the projected right now. The general fund is at 92%, and a couple of the reasons are we'll discuss. Property taxes, again, we've talked about it in the past, but this was a revaluation year for the Hamilton County. We were not sure what kind of increases they would see, but as you can tell, there was a significant increase based upon what we had estimated. They got around 2.9 million, and the estimate was around 2.6. They have received all monies for that. There will be no more property taxes received for the year. It's a two-time they get those revenues. Municipal income tax is holding steady around the target, which is our biggest revenue source, so that's good. Hotel tax, which we've talked about in the past, and then the recovery plan.
Left column estimates, those are full year?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. This is full year versus what they've got to date. Hotel tax, we've talked about that in the recovery plan. They had the new hotel, and it's been open the entire year now for 2018. That came in higher than expected by a little bit. This should have been all collected now for 18. This is paid on quarterly, so the next quarterly payment would be in January, and that would be in 2019.
So like on going back to municipal tax real quick, I know where the 83% comes from, but
Yes.
historically, how much revenue comes in November and December? There's got to be corporate, right, or ES payments
There's
or something.
corporate, and yeah, and then the withholdings and.
Any concerns?
No, they're holding where they need to be, and we talked to
Okay.
the treasurer's office this morning, actually, and
Okay.
it'll stay consistent.
Okay.
Okay. Intergovernmental, we've talked about in the past as well. The biggest thing in there this year is the SAFER grant, and that was over $400,000. It was a one-time grant. It's only built in there, and we've gotten what we needed, and they will not receive that in the following years of the recovery plan. Fees, licenses, and permits. This is largely increased this year due to the building permits. This is the largest year they've seen in a 4 to 5 year trend. It's an anomaly year, so that's why this is so large. It may not be this large next year, so that we would consider this when looking at estimated revenues next year is possibly taking the anomaly out and making sure we estimate conservatively for those revenues. Other is another big one. Not much was expected in there, but the BWC rebate that they received, and most entities did throughout the state, they received over $200,000, and that was put in the miscellaneous revenues. Also, we talked about this at the last commission meeting, they're earning interest revenues now through the Star Ohio bank account that they have. They have two, and they saw another $12,000 come in for that, and that's why that's increased. Any other questions that I did not address on the revenues? Okay. Handout C is the expenditures. Again, the target is 10 over 12 months, so we want to see things spent at 83% or below. That means that they're right on target. The ones that I'm going to go over are the ones that are showing as over, but if you compared these to some of the ones we've looked at other commission meetings, you'll see several have come off as showing exceeds at the moment. And that was because a lot of one-time payments are now, like I told you guys, are flushing through. So the percentages become more true since we do it on a monthly basis. So if you'll turn to page 3 of 7. Our first one that still shows exceeds is the fire department. Contractual expenses are over and personnel has been slightly higher than expected, mainly due to higher overtime for the year for the department. Below that is the street section. It has exceeds. This is all street lights. The street light expenditures were way more than expected this year compared to historical. Parks and playgrounds are at the bottom of this page. Contractual needs, they pay more of this through the spring, summer, and fall months, so this is slowing down and should even out before the end of the year. This is all based on when the needs of that department are. Page 4 of 7 is the dispatchers at the top. They had their debt payment, they paid in full already, so that's already completely paid for the year, and their contractual has been mostly paid out for the year as well.
I did have one question on the fire.
Yeah.
So, I see overtime is somewhat controllable. Is that tapering off, or is it still same level or higher than it was? Because it seems a reoccurring
Yes.
theme.
This year was higher than normal. That's something we've talked about with the department. Some of it is controllable, some of it's not. Some of it's based upon the union agreements, and they have to have so many personnel and things like that that's controlled through that union agreement. And they have to have so many days off and things like that. I haven't looked because we had some things in November. I haven't looked recently. It was fluctuating for a while, so I can't answer that right now. I'd have to go back and look. But I can do that. Okay. Still on page 4 of 7. We've talked about several of these before. The first one is the DRETAC down at the bottom. The tax settlement sheets, when they come in from the county auditor's office, you get property taxes and you book those at gross, and there's deductions that come with those tax settlement sheets as well. The revenue source was higher than expected, so some of those expenditures have been higher than expected. They kind of go hand in hand. So a couple of these, which are on this page and the next, and I'll point them out, is really their indirect expenses off of the tax settlement sheets that have to be posted, and again, they're more than what was expected. So DRETAC is one of the first ones for that. The workers' compensation department that's here on the bottom of this page, these are really legal fees for workers' compensation. We're going to be working to move those into the legal section department and not show them separately. But again, those are legal fees for workers' compensation type deals. Page 5 of 7. The first one is state examiner fees. That's the audit and compilation for their gap report. There's one more payment to be made, and then that one will be paid off. So you got one more there. The county auditor and treasurer fees department right below that, and the election expenses, which is below that, that is coming from the tax settlement sheets from the county auditor's office. The outside legal fees in the middle of the page, they've had a lot of legal expenditures this year. They've had the 2018 openers on the police and fire union negotiation, which was allowable through the contract. And then they are also moving to open the 2019 union negotiations as well. I believe that they have their first meetings next week. They had originally had other dates, but had to be moved, so they'll have official meetings next week. The real estate tax department, those were the properties that had to have payments on back taxes so that then they could ask for, what's that?
Exemption.
Yeah, thank you. Exemptions to no longer have property taxes assessed on those properties. The earning tax incentive refund, this is a little high right now. They had a huge or a large payment refund to one of their incentive companies of over $400,000. So that's why this is high at this time. No big ones that we are aware of to be paid up before the rest of the year. So it's more of the normal. The insurance department, we've talked about it in the past. That's been completely paid for the year. And then page 6 of 7, the debt, that was on target with the debt schedule as well. But as you can see, overall, the general fund was at 79.8%, which is below the 83.3%. Any questions on the general fund? Okay. The last page of that handout is the street and state highway funds. The street fund is below expenditures. The state highway fund is above only because there was a prior year expenditure paid in 2018 that had been encumbered and rolled over from 17 to 18. Handout D is our bank reconciliation. This shows all the banks that they are a part of. Again, we talked about Star Ohio when we went over revenue. You can see those two accounts there where they're earning their interest. And then it shows you the adjusted balances to the bank. That last one on payroll timing, that's so large. It's just a timing between the bank and the books, and that has corrected itself in November, so it won't be showing on the next reconciliation. Is there any questions on any of those handouts?
The next thing that we have on the agenda is the status of the report on accounting methods. Currently, that report has been through review in Columbus and at this time is scheduled for release on December 13th. And we won't talk about that until it's released. After it's released at our next commission meeting, I will have copies for everyone and we will go through just a brief overview. We won't go into detail, but I will explain the report to you and direct you to the comments.
I'm sorry, when is that?
December 13th is the tentative release date.
Thank you.
Is that something that you can start talking to the city about before presenting it to us?
Oh, we've already talked to them. Yeah, they're aware.
Okay. Do you want to go over 18 and 19, how that's going to play out?
2018 appropriations, we've worked with the city on changes that need to be made there, and approving those through the council, which we've been working with them on that. And then 2019, they've had their first reading of that appropriation, which has been reviewed by us to make sure that it is within lines of the recovery plan that is intact for now for 2019. So we would need authority to make, what do you call it?
Authority for the financial supervisor to give the final approval
Yes.
on the 2019 permanent appropriations in accordance with the recovery plan.
For the next meeting?
No.
No, we need to make that motion.
You need to make the motion.
Today,
Can
yeah.
you say that one more time? I didn't know it. Follow all that.
So the commission has to give the financial supervisor the authority to approve the 2019 permanent appropriations that the city is going to adopt. And that authority just gives us the approval so that we don't have to bring those permanent appropriations to this commission, have another meeting. The approval that you give us is to make sure and approve them as long as they are in line with basically what's forecasted for 2019 in the recovery plan that you all have approved.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
This bridges it for that period, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we need a motion to give the financial supervisor the authority to approve the 2019 permanent appropriations that the city will have consistent with the approved financial recovery plan.
Oh, I'll do.
Mr. Vondevar makes the motion. Is there a second? Mr. Shepherd, thank you. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you for doing that. We have on our agenda the report of the mayor, and he was not able to be with us today, and I didn't receive any other information to be presented, so I don't have anything on that. Would you like to give a report for city council?
Sure, most of it was already done. We did pass the 2018 year-end appropriations ordinance to balance. And the Finance Committee also presented the 2019 appropriations, and it was modeled almost exactly off of the financial recovery plan, so I don't think that the financial supervisor will have any problems approving that once it's passed. We will be meeting next Tuesday night, and I suspect that it will be approved at that meeting. We had one reading so that the general public could look it over and council people could digest it and make sure they were comfortable with it. So our meetings are normally the second and fourth Tuesdays, so we will be meeting this coming Tuesday. The fourth Tuesday is Christmas, and while, I don't think people want to come in on Christmas evening to do a council meeting. So we're discussing whether we should just schedule a meeting the week following, or right after our council meeting the following week, or to just wait and see if there's any last minute things that need to be done prior to the end of the year, and maybe call a special meeting between Christmas and New Year. So we are ahead of the game where we normally are, because normally we're scrambling to get the appropriations done, but it was done last month, and so we're ready to act on it, I believe. If you have any questions about that. And then just to give you an update on the retirees' health insurance, we have a new company, the S&S Healthcare, who now took over the third-party administration for the retirees' healthcare until the end of this year. To administer payments for the end of this year. Retirees have been notified that they will have 1 year to submit claims for 2018. In the past, we've given people 2 years, and honestly, I think that is part of the reason why the prior company had so many issues, that the bills were so old and it was hard to get EOBs and things like that. So retirees know that they have 1 year to submit claims for 2018 to S&S Healthcare. And then beginning in January, once the committee is elected, the administrative committee, they will send out letters and applications for potential retirees to fill out the application form. I did send out ballots to all of the current recipients, and I have received those. We are actually meeting tonight. That's one of my meetings today. At 7 o'clock, I've called a meeting of the retirees. If anybody wanted to hand carry their ballots in, and then attempt to answer any questions that they may have about the new plan. So that is moving along nicely. So that will begin in January of 2019. The current retirees elect 2 people from their ranks, and then the mayor has 3 appointees. He has not done that yet, so I'll be working with him to get those 3 appointed so that the committee can begin their work and get this new retirees healthcare plan underway.
How many retirees do you have currently?
Well, there's retirees and their spouses, and I want to say there's like 120. 140 maybe. I don't really know offhand. I should know that. I've looked at the list enough. It's expected that some of those will come off because of the enrollment process that council has adopted. I think it will probably go down a significant number, because the ordinance says that you had to be hired by the city prior to January 1st, 1975, and then have 20 years of service, and it only covers current spouses or widows or widowers of those who qualify. So the application form will automatically, I think, have some of those people drop off the rolls. So it's kind of rolling it back to the initial application of the retirees' health insurance plan that was adopted many, many years ago. It addresses that group of people and not all the others as people have been added on over the years. So we'll know that after we receive the applications, but I suspect that a significant number will go down. And
So
then
that's-
that's just a one-time payment each year, so our costs will be known. And then I think they will only go down, because I think anybody who is, with few exceptions, I think anybody who is qualified is probably already on the plan. There may be one or two stragglers out there that may become eligible in the future after they retire from their service now, so.
I just had 3 general questions. So, in regards to like discussions with the police and fire unions and everything, when will we know more? What's the general timing on that, and when will we know more? I know that's been ongoing, obviously, but we obviously had the report that we commissioned and got the results back. But what's the general timing on?
You'd have to ask the administration. I don't know, is Joe here? Joe, do you have any information about the timing of union negotiations and contracts for next year? I mean, you've begun.
Yes, we will start negotiations on next Tuesday, and next Wednesday will be the first 2, and it'll continue through.
So remind me, when's the contract expire? When it coming up?
The end of this year.
It
That's what I
expires
thought,
the end
yeah.
of this year, but
So will it be concluded before the end of the calendar year?
I doubt it. And in that case, if there isn't a new contract in place, then the old contract continues in force until a new contract is signed.
Okay. Okay.
Any timetable, Joe, do you know of? I mean, do you have a time when you might want to be finished or when you think it will be finished?
Well, we hope to get it done within the first 6 months.
Okay.
Is there any, I don't know, just if I'm on, obviously we're pushing for cuts and whatnot. There's no real incentive, and they know that. So it's like, what's their incentive just to not drag this on forever?
Well, I mean, I think the administration, I think, is anxious to get something,
Sure.
in a contract because the financial recovery, we have to live within the financial recovery
Right.
plan, and it pretty clearly spells out what has to be done. So I think the mayor has said, tell me how much money we have, and that's what I'm going to negotiate with.
Sure.
And he knows what that is, so.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Okay. And then obviously when we did the budget, I mean, how long have we been doing this now? A year or 2? So, like,
14 times.
Yeah, so when will we see like a revised budget for 19?
It
I'm
has to
assuming-
be updated annually.
Sure.
So you'll see one probably in March. I don't know,
Okay.
I know the last one was dated March.
Yeah,
And
2018.
then just so that you understand, if there's not new union contracts in place, then we have to go with what's in there basically now, the same assumptions. At such time as there are new agreements and things change, we'll have to update that accordingly.
Okay.
So you're more than likely going to see
The biggest number on the page is.
well, yeah, but
Yeah.
you'll at least, because it has to be updated annually. I mean, honestly, I would like for us to not have to update it, but the code says we have to update it annually.
Sure.
So we'll have to meet that March deadline, and then if the contracts aren't in place by then we'll have to do it again.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense, because obviously we did this a long time ago, and
Right.
facts change and assumptions
Right.
change. So,
Right.
okay. And then, just curious, I know a few months back, we approved the loan for the road improvements. When does that start?
Well, that loan is only if they need that money.
Okay.
So that's part of those OPWC grants. There's
Yeah.
a loan portion. So typically, when you're doing road paving, that won't be until the warmer weather. So that's
Okay,
not
it's
something
not-
that's
okay.
going to start
Okay.
now.
Okay, that's all I had.
I had just one quick question. If we could step back to the Star Ohio. Donna, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but I'm just curious because our office educates local governments about the Star Ohio. Did you all not do it in the past just because you weren't aware of it? Or
That's
how
it.
did you make the decision to do it?
Do you want to?
That's the city treasurer question, and so they, because that department makes those decisions, so I doubt council would know, I don't think you would know that
Okay.
No,
answer.
I wouldn't know
so
the answer.
That would be
Okay.
something to
And it
address
wasn't
to
anything
them.
that we had to approve or anything. I think it was just a function of the treasurer's
Okay, I
office.
just wondered how we could do better on that, so, thank you.
I agree. I mean, it's nice to see that interest rate, significant amount of interest, so.
Okay. Well, we had, so March is when you'll present to us a revised plan?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'm just thinking this through. So our next meeting, I was contemplating February 19th. Given that you'll be able to get the end of the year buttoned down and January data at that point. Does that make sense? And then we'll meet again in March of 19 and
You need
consider
to look and see, I don't know off the top of my head what the date of that plan is.
I have it.
I think it's the 22nd, but I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
I think that's right.
Then as long as, I mean, it doesn't have to be March, you could do it, well, you could do it, or you could do it the first part of April. Either way, you'll just have to let me know, but the commission, you will have a plan from them to meet that 1-year deadline.
Okay. I just was trying to think through our next quarter here of meetings for 19.
So I'm out of town that day.
The 19th. Would the 21st be a possibility?
21st would work.
21st would work. Does that work for you?
Mm-hmm.
Works.
Yes.
Marcy?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's go with the 21st then. February
11:30 to 1?
Yeah. We try to make it an hour, but you can put it to 1. And then we'll, I don't know if it would make sense to set a March date right now, or do you want to just wait till the next meeting?
I'd rather wait.
Just wait, okay. Make sure we know where that is. Okay, let's plan on that then. Okay. Anything else for the good of the order? All right. If there is a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved?
I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very
Thank you.
much for being here. It was a little shorter than last time. so-
Yeah, just a
It's
little.
all right.